want to talk about why people fail. Now, first, before we get into that, let's discuss what is failure. Because when you think of the statement, why people fail, you're most likely thinking of failure as a horrible result where the person is getting the worst outcome that could possibly happen from the efforts that they're putting in. That is one kind of failure. That would be a massive failure. And it happens. So, there's another kind of failure that's important to notice and to be aware of also. And that is the failure that happens all the time. The failure that is a definite and necessary part of the learning process. We can never learn how to do something if we aren't failing. When we try something and it works out differently than how we had expected, then that's a failure, right? So what do? You take the results that you got, you figure out what part is working, and then you'd keep that. And the parts that weren't working, you throw it out, figure out what else you need to do differently, and start over or build on it. So it's taking what works, remembering it, learning from it, and letting go of the rest. When someone experiences a normal failure that's a part of the learning process, that's okay. That's just part of the gig. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And when we are learning and growing, then failure's okay. What about the other failure, though? The type of failure that is what happens when people totally self-destruct, or everything falls apart, or something goes horribly wrong and just totally off the rails. That's a problem. That's a real problem. There are opportunities to learn from that. There's the ability to take what worked and run with it and grow and build and figure out what you can do differently next time. And there's also the ability to sometimes completely throw it out and start over. Act like the phoenix rising from the ashes of your life or of the event or of whatever had happened. That kind of failure, though, that kind of failure comes from a mindset that is unsupportive of what the person is trying to do. It comes across in things like self-sabotage. That type of failure comes around when the unconscious mind is completely unsupportive of what the conscious mind is trying to do. When the unconscious mind forgot to unlearn something that it had learned in the past that seemed to make sense when it learned it, but now isn't working. And maybe it never worked, sometimes our minds, we learn how to do stuff that never works, but it's what we know, and so we run with it. The way to overcome that kind of failure is to master your mindset, to start doing things that help support your goals, support your dreams, and support the results you want. We have no ability to control the results we're getting. We can 100% control our efforts. And when our efforts are amazing and they're just brilliantly building on what we want to do, then the results are going to come. The results may be what we want. They may be better than what we want. Our job is to make sure that we have a mindset necessary to start getting the results that we truly desire. And the way to do that is to start paying attention to what you're thinking. This is one of the very first steps. Pay attention to your thoughts. Do the thoughts that you have on a regular basis support what you want? Or are you tearing yourself down? Are you your own worst critic? Or are you your best cheerleader? It's good to be able to notice what you're doing that's working and what you're doing that isn't working, and to give yourself feedback and to get feedback from other people. And there's a difference between giving yourself positive, critical feedback and being critical of yourself. So what are you doing? How do you talk to yourself? If you were walking down the street and you heard someone talking to a friend or a loved one or some stranger the way that you talk to yourself, what would you think? Consider that. What would you think if you heard someone else talking to another person the way that you talk to yourself? So that's what I want you to work on this week. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself. Start noticing what you say, how you say it, and the emotions that are driving it. If you haven't yet, remember to click below and subscribe, and check back for more content. So always remember, you are the master of your destiny.